Welcome to the weekly Osmium update brought to you by Max Mortillaro and Arjan Timmerman. Every week, we cut through the noise and spotlight what really matters in AI, data, and analytics. No fluff, just the sharp insights, smart takes, and signals you need to stay ahead. This is your 10-minute update powered by the Osmium Data Group. Let's dive in. Let's start with Hammerspace getting 100 million US dollars in a round B investment. So, Max, what's your view on that?
Well, thanks, Arjan, and first, congratulations to the whole Hammerspace team. It's been interesting to see them grow and get extra funding for that. Of course, I think that Hammerspace has been talking a lot about AI. We've been watching them at A3 Coms Tech Live last autumn in London. And I think it's a logical evolution. I think the market is still very much bullish in terms of its investment for anything which is AI related. It's true that the company which has been investing, Altimeter Capital, is apparently a company who has invested early into Meta, MongoDB, NVIDIA, Snowflake, and Uber. So apparently they seem to know their stuff. Technology-wise, what matters to us here is that Hammerspace has a pretty good implementation of high-speed storage. So they support PNFS folder 2, so parallel NFS folder 2, which enables very high throughput, high bandwidth AI workloads. And the interesting thing which they presented at their appearance in London was around their Tier 0 ultra-fast share storage, which basically aggregates local disks which are present on compute nodes where GPUs are attached, and it allows to aggregate all of the data and create very large pools of data. So for me, it's interesting. It's good for them, and Hammerspace is very present these days in the AI space. So yeah, that's it. Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, like you mentioned, we've seen them at the A3 Tech live events in London, and it was really interesting to hear from them on how they could leverage the storage that is 9 out of 10 times already being implemented, present that for the global namespace. So that's a really interesting thing because with that, you can leverage the storage in a much better way than it would be if you just do it the old-fashioned way and every node has its own storage. So that's really interesting. So looking forward to hearing more about that, maybe in coming A3 Tech Lives, where we will be in Munich in a couple of months as well. Looking forward to hear more from that.
Absolutely. And I want also to touch on one point there as well is Hammerspace is the case study we've done. Remember, it was a very large count of nodes, probably at a hyperscaler. And I think they were able to create a pool which was like multi-petabyte size. I don't remember if it was 20 or 30 petabytes of data aggregated from all of those stuff. We have an article on our website, osmiumdatagroup.com. Look in the AI data infrastructure space to find that one. The thing which is interesting there as well is that this has also a huge cost-saving angle and a very huge also impact in terms of sustainability, because then you're able to leverage more data. And talking about sustainability and still remaining in the data infrastructure space, Pure Storage announced their new RC20 FlashArray C, which is a solution aimed at SMBs, or at least SMBs in the US, with reused controllers, meaning that another take on sustainability here, you get refurbished, reused controllers which are still working, but you get entry-level storage size with 140 terabytes. So what's your take on that, Arjan?
It's an interesting one, let's put it that way. Reuse stuff is obviously one of the things that gets more important, especially here in the Europe side of things, with all ESG that's going on. It could be a very good solution for a lot of customers. Like you already mentioned, I think one of the things is that 148 terabytes is already kind of getting big, let's put it that way. So it might be too big for some of the customers that we are talking to, but still, it's interesting to see that Pure is already getting into reusable and non-disruptively upgradable solutions. That's really an interesting thought. If you look at it from our perspective, from the Osmium Data Group perspective, we did a white paper with Infinita on green IT. It's really important for a lot of customers knowing that they can do something with hardware that's been used before and making sure that they are getting the power that they need, especially with SSDs, with all flash arrays and pure storage is, I would say, one of the leaders, maybe the leader in that space. It's important for them to have something that can leverage all the ESG rules that are particularly important here in the EMEA part of the world. So maybe we get an RC10 as well. Who knows?
SMB in the US and SME in Europe is a different world. I think we've been talking that many years, even back in the days when we were doing market research for a tier two analyst company. I think that we always had this discussion with those guys about what is SMB, what is not SMB, right? The interesting thing where I am fully on with you is around the need for better sustainability in the industry. Of course, when we talk about edge use cases, bleeding edge use cases, AI, whatever requires a lot of performance, of course, there you need to have the latest and the greatest stuff. But for most of the other workloads, if the solution has built-in resiliency, availability mechanism, fault tolerance, whatever, what prevents you from using proposed or reuse controllers? What does it change for me? I mean, I'm the kind of so I used to be a guy which showed off a lot of things. When you're young and broke, you want to show off. When you grow older and you mature a bit, then you're thinking, do I really need to get this latest brand new thing? I could get that refurbished. It's going to do the job. It's going to cost me half the money. Doing the same stuff with buying some, whatever thing which has been repackaged or whatever. We do that with iPhones. We do that with MacBooks. Why can't you do that with storage arrays? If the vendor is providing the guarantee, you get the benefit of getting something which is cheaper, which is proven to work. It's great also for our planet. It's great for sustainability perspective. And there are other initiatives which are popping up or already exist, like the circular drives. I think it's circulardrives.org. I'm not 100% sure if they focus purely on HDDs or if they have SSDs in their stuff. But all of that does good. It's good for the industry. I think it improves pure storage footprint and so on. So, Arjan, back at you for our next and last topic. So, Arjan, last news today, VMware or Broadcom, or whatever you want to call it, has been announcing that ESXi 3 is back with ESXi 8.0 available. Seems there's a lot of buzz going on. So, what do you think?
It kind of feels like we're in a tariff kind of world. So saying we are going to bomb everything with tariffs, and then after a short while, you just say, let's try to tune that back a little bit. It seems the way Broadcom thought about it, and it's really good for them to do that because a lot of the people working with VMware were able to at least get the testing that they needed in a home lab or easily with the ESXi free stuff. And that's what they introduced again. So I'm happy with that. Hopefully, they will do that with some of the other stuff as well. They still seem to be very focused on the large enterprise. Like we already talked about, large enterprise in the US is something different from large enterprise in Europe, I would say, and maybe even the rest of the world. But hopefully, they will at least get that over to some of the Broadcom VMware projects that we can now leverage, VCF and that kind of stuff. So let's hope it will go there as well, and the prices will go down a little bit as well. Like with the tariffs, we are going from 20 to 10%. Maybe that's something Broadcom can think about as well. Talking about that, we've been talking with Platform 9 in London at QCOM. I've been starting testing with that. Interesting stuff. I still try to get in contact with them because there's, especially on the DNS side, there's some things that I'm trying, but I'm not getting to the point that I would like it to be. But yeah, it's really interesting to see a lot of the stuff that's going on with other hypervisors, other solutions like Platform 9. And that's it for me. Anything to add to that, Max?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that companies should never underestimate the power of community, right? It is not just you selling something. Of course, if you're selling millions and millions of something and billions, then you're maybe commoditizing some stuff. But you need to rely not just on your TCO calculators whatsoever, but you need to rely on a community of professionals who understand the project, the product that you sell, who understand the value, who are able to implement it and test it, have a chance to try it, verify how it works, and then we can advocate and vouch for you, the vendor, for the value of what you deliver. So I think that getting back to Platform 9, we spoke with Madura at KubeCon, and she was saying that it's very critical for them to offer a community edition so people can try it, people can convince themselves, and so on. Is what VMware did back in the day. All of us, we've had a lab or something. I remember a very noisy IBM X3650 running in my living room, much to the sadness of my wife when we had a small kid. But yeah, you need to do stuff, you need to certify and so on. So, long story short, community versions are a great thing. And with that, I would end it here for today.
Please feel free to follow us for more insights. You can find us on Blue Sky at Osmium Data Group and on LinkedIn also via Osmium Data Group. Thank you and see you next week for another Osmium update.